Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 767th night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Sayf Al-Muluk and his Mamalukes, having cut the wood and twisted the ropes for their raft, made an end of it and launched upon it into the sea. Then, after breaking their bonds with the axe and loading the craft with fruits plucked from the island trees, they embarked at close of day. Nor did any wot of their intent. They put out in the sea in their raft, and paddled on 4 months, knowing not whither the craft carried them, till their provant failed them, and they were suffering from the severest extreme of hunger and thirst, when behold, the sea waxed troubled and foamed and rose in high waves, and there came forth upon them a frightful crocodile, which put on its claws, and catching one of the Mamalukes, swallowed him. At the sight of this horror, Sayf Al-Muluk wept bitterly, and he and the 2 men that remained to him pushed off from the place where they had seen the crocodile, sore affrighted. After this, they continued drifting on till one day they espied a mountain, terrible tall, and spiring high in the air, whereat they rejoiced, when presently an island appeared. They made towards it with all might, congratulating one another on the prospect of making land. But hardly had they sighted the island on which was the mountain, when the sea changed face, and boiled and rose in big waves, and a second crocodile raised its head, and put out its claw, caught up the 2 remaining Mamalukes, and swallowed them. So Sayf Al-Muluk abode alone, and making his way to the island, toiled till he reached the mountain top, where he looked about, and found a copse, and walking among the trees fell to eating of the fruits. Presently he saw on the branches more than 20 great apes, each bigger than he-mules, whereat he was seized with exceeding fear. The apes came down and surrounded him. Then they forewent him, signing to him to follow them, and walked on, and he too, till he came to a castle, tall of base, and strong of build, whose ordinance was 1 brick of gold, and 1 of silver. The apes entered, and he after them, and he saw in the castle all manner of rarities, jewels and precious metals, such as tongue faileth to describe. Here he found a young man passing tall of stature, with no hair on his cheek, and Sayf Al-Muluk was cheered by the sight, for there was no human being but he in the castle. The stranger marveled exceedingly at sight of the prince, and asked him, What is thy name, and of what land art thou, and how camest thou hither? Tell me thy tale, and hide naught from me. Answered the prince, By Allah, I came not hither of my own consent, nor in this place of my intent, yet I cannot but go from place to place till I win my wish. Quoth the youth, And what is thy object? And quoth the other, I am of the land of Egypt, and my name is Sayf Al-Muluk of King Asim bin Safwan, and told him all that had passed from first to last. Whereupon the youth rose and stood in his service, saying, O king of the ape, I was erst in Egypt, and heard that thou hast gone to the land of China. But where is this land, and where lies China land? Verily, this is a wondrous thing and marvelous matter. Answered the prince, Sooth, thou speakest, but when I left China land, I set out intending for the land of Hind, and a stormy wind arose, and the sea boiled, and it broke all my ships. Brief, he told him all that had befallen him till he came thither. Whereupon quoth the other, O king's son, thou hast had enough of strangerhood and its sufferings. Alhamdulillah, praised be Allah, whom hath brought thee hither. So now do thou abide with me, that I may enjoy thy company till I die, when thou shalt be king over this island, to which no bound is known. And these apes thou seest are indeed skilled in all manner of crafts, and whatso thou seekest, here shalt they find. Replied Sayf Al-Muluk, O my brother, I may not tarry in any place till my wish be won, albeit I compass the whole world in pursuit thereof, and make quest of every one, so it peradventure Allah may bring me to my desire, or my course lead me to the place wherein is the appointed term of my days, and I shall die my death. Then the youth turned with a sign to one of the apes, and he went out and was absent a while, after which he returned with other 8 girt with silken zones. They brought the trays and sat on near 100 chargers of gold and saucers of silver containing all manner of meats. Then they stood after the manner of servants between the hands of the king, till the youth signaled to the chamberlains, who sat down, and he whose wont it was to serve stood, while the two princes ate their sufficiency. Then the apes cleared the table and brought basins and ewers of gold, and they washed their hands in rose water, after which they set on fine sugar, and nigh 40 flagons, and each a different kind of wine, and they drank and took pleasure and made merry, and had a fine time. And all the apes danced and gambolled before them while the eaters sat at meat, which when Sayf Al-Muluk saw, he marveled at them, and forgot that which had befallen him of sufferings. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 768th night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Sayf Al-Muluk saw the gestures and gambols of the apes, he marveled thereat, and forgot that which had betided him of strangerhood and its sufferings. At nightfall they lighted waxen candles and candlesticks of gold studded with gems, and set on dishes of confections and fruits of sugar candy. So they ate, and when the hour of rest was come, the apes spread them bedding, and they slept. And when the morning morrowed, the young man arose, as was his wont, before sunrise, and waking Sayf Al-Muluk said to him, Put thy head forth of this lattice, and see what standeth beneath it. So he put out his head, and saw the wide waste, and all the wold filled with apes, whose number none knew, save Almighty Allah. Quoth he, Here be great plenty of apes, for they cover the whole country. But why they are assembled at this hour? Quoth the youth, This is their custom. Every Sabbath all the apes in the island come hither, and some from 2 and 3 distances, and stand here till I awake from sleep, and put forth my head from this lattice, when they kiss the ground before me, and go about their business. So saying, he put his head out of the window, and when the apes saw him, they kissed the earth before him, and went their way. Sayf Al-Muluk abode with the young man a whole month, when he farewelled him and departed, escorted by a party of nigh 100 apes, which the young man bade escort him. They journeyed with him 7 days, till they came to the limit of their islands, when they took leave of him and returned to their places, while Sayf Al-Muluk fared on alone, over mount and hill and desert and plain, 4 months' journey, one day anhungered, and the next sated. Now eating of the herbs of the earth, and then of the fruits of the tree, till he repented him of the harm he had done himself by leaving the young man. And he was about to retrace his steps to then, when he saw something black afar, and said to himself, Is this a city or trees? But I will not turn back till I see what it is. So he made towards it, and when he drew near, he saw that it was a palace tall of base. Now he who built it was Japhet, son of Noah, on whom be peace. And it is of this palace that God the Most High speaketh in his precious book, when as he saith, And an abandoned well in a high builded palace. Sayf Al-Muluk sat down at the gate, and said in his mind, When I knew what is within yonder palace, and what king dwelleth there, and who shall acquaint me whither its folk are men or jinn? Who will tell me the truth of the case? He sat considering a while, but seeing none go in or come out, he arose, and committing himself to Allah Almighty, entered the palace, and went on till he had counted 7 vestibules. Yet he saw no one. Presently, looking to his right, he beheld 3 doors, while before him was a 4th, over which hung a curtain. So he went up to this, and raising the curtain, found himself in a great hall, spread with silken carpets. At the upper end rose a throne of gold, whereon sat a damsel, whose face was like the moon, arrayed in royal raiment, and beautified as she were a bride on the night of her displaying. And at the foot of the throne was a table of 40 trays, spread with golden and silvern dishes full of dainty viands. The prince went up and saluted her, and she returned his salam, saying, Art thou of mankind or of jinn? Replied he, I am a man of the best of mankind, for I am a king's son of a king. She rejoined, What seekest thou? Up with thee, and eat of yonder food, and after tell me thy past from first to last, and how thou comest hither. So he sat down at the table, and removing the cover from a tray of meat, he being hungry, and ate till he was full, then washed his right hand, and going up to the throne, sat down by the damsel, who asked him, Who art thou, and what is thy name, and whence comest thou, and who bringeth thee hither? He answered, Indeed, my story is a long, but do thou first tell me who and what and whence thou art, and why thou dwellest in this place alone? She rejoined, My name is Dulat Katan, and I am the daughter of the king of Hind. My father dwelleth in the capital city of Serendib, and hath a great and goodly garden. There is no goodlier in all the land of Hind, or its dependencies, and in this garden is a great tank. One day I went out into the garden with my slave woman, and I stripped me naked, and they likewise, and we, entering the tank, fell to sporting and solacing ourselves therein. Presently, before I could beware, something, as it were a cloud, swooped down on me, and snatching me up from the midst of my handmaids, soared aloft with me betwixt heaven and earth, saying, Fear not, O Dulat Katan, but be of good heart. Then he flew me on, and a little while after he set me down here in this palace, and straightway, without stay or delay, became a handsome young man, daintily apparelled, who said to me, Now dost thou know me? Replied I, No, my lord. And he said, I am the Blue King, sovereign of the Jan. My father dwelleth in the castle Al-Kulzam height, and hath under his hand 600,000 jinn, flyers, and divers. It chanced that while passing on my way I saw thee, and I fell in love with thee for thy lovely form. So I swooped down on thee, and snatched thee up from among the slave girls, and brought thee to this the high-builded castle, which is my dwelling place. None may fare hither, be he man or be he jinni, and from Hind hither is a journey of 120 years. Wherefore do thou hold that thou wilt never again behold the land of thy father and thy mother. So abide with me here in contentment of heart and peace, and I will bring to thy hands whatsoever thou seekest. Then he embraced me and kissed me. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 769th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the damsel said to Sayf Al-Muluk, Then the king of the Jan, after he had acquainted me with his case, embraced me and kissed me, saying, Abide here, and fear nothing, whereupon he went away from me an hour, and presently returned with these tables and carpets and furnitures. He comes to me every third, and abideth with me 3 days, and on Friday, at the time of mid-afternoon prayer, he departeth, and is absent till the following third. When he is here, he eateth and drinketh and kisseth and huggeth me, but doth naught else with me. And I am a pure virgin, even as Almighty Allah created me. My father's name is Taj Al-Muluk, and he wotteth not what is come of me, nor hath he hit upon any trace of me. This is my story. Now tell me thy tale. Answered the prince, My story is a long, and I fear lest while I am telling it thee, the Ifrit will come. Quoth she, He went out from me but an hour before thy entering, and will not return till third. So sit thee down, and take thine ease, and hearten thy heart, and tell me, what hath betided thee from beginning to end? And quoth he, I hear, and I obey. So he fell to telling her all that had befallen him from the commencement to conclusion. But when she heard speak of Badi'a Al-Jamal, her eyes ran over with railing tears, and she cried, Oh, Badi'a Al-Jamal, I had not thought this of thee. Alack for our luck! O Badi'a Al-Jamal, dost thou not remember me, nor say, My sister Dulat Katan, whither is she gone? And her weeping redoubled, lamenting for that Badi'a Al-Jamal had forgotten her. Then said Sayf Al-Muluk, O Dulat Katan, thou art a mortal, and she is Jinnah. How then can she be thy sister? Replied the princess, She is my sister by fosterage, and this is how it came about. My mother went out to solace herself in the garden with labor pangs, seized her, and she bare me. Now, the mother of Badi'a Al-Jamal chanced to be passing with her guards, when she also was taken with travail pains. So she alighted in a side of the garden, and there brought forth Badi'a Al-Jamal. She dispatched one of her women to seek food and childbirth gear of my mother, who sent her what she sought, and invited her to visit her. So she came to her with Badi'a Al-Jamal, and my mother suckled the child, who with her mother tarried with us in the garden 2 months. And before wending her ways, the mother of Badi'a Al-Jamal gave my mother somewhat, saying, When thou hast need of me, I will come to thee a middlemost the garden, and depart to her own land. But she and her daughter used to visit us every year, and abide with us a while before returning home. Wherefore, and I were with my mother, O Sayf Al-Muluk, and if thou wert with me in my country, and Badi'a Al-Jamal and I were together as of wont, I would devise some device with her to bring thee to thy desire of her. But I am here, and they know naught of me, for that and they keened what is become of me. They have power to deliver me from this palace. However, the matter is in Allah's hand. Extolled and exalted be He. And what can I do? Quoth Sayf Al-Muluk, Rise and let us flee, and go whither the Almighty willeth. But quoth she, We cannot do that. For by Allah, though we fled hence a year's journey, that accursed would overtake us in an hour and slaughter us. Then said the prince, I will hide myself in this way, and when he passeth by, I will smite him with a sword and slay him. Dalat Katan replied, Thou canst not succeed in slaying him, say thou slay his soul. Asked he, And whence is his soul? And she answered, Many a time have I questioned him thereof, but he would not tell me till one day I pressed him, and he waxed wroth with me, and he said to me, How often wilt thou ask me of my soul? What hast thou to do with my soul? I rejoined, O Hatim, there remaineth none to me but thou except Allah, and my life dependeth on my life, and whilst thou livest all is well for me. So except I care for thy soul, and set it in the apple of this mine eye, how shall I live in thine absence? And I knew where thy soul abideth. I would never cease whilst I lived to hold it in mine embrace, and would keep it as my right eye. Whereupon said he to me, What time I was born, the astrologers predicted that I would lose my soul at the hands of the son of a king of mankind. So I took it, and I set it in the crop of a sparrow, and shut up the bird in a box. The box I set in a casket, and enclosing this in 7 other caskets and 7 chests, laid the whole in an alabaster coffer, which I buried within the marge of the earth-circling sea, for that these parts are far from the world of men, and none of them can win hither. So now, see, I have told thee of the secret between me and thee. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 770th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Dalat Katan acquainted Sayf Al-Muluk with the whereabouts of the soul of the Jinni, who had carried her off, and repeated to him his speech, ending with, And this is a secret between me and thee. I rejoined, Quoth she, To whom shall I tell it, seeing that none but thou cometh with whom I may talk thereof, adding, By Allah, thou hast indeed set my soul in the strongest of strongholds, to which none may gain access. How should a man win to it, unless the impossible be foreordained, and Allah decree like as the astrologers predicted? Thereupon the Jinni, peradventure one may come, having on his finger the seal ring of Solomon, son of David, on the twain be peace, and lay his hand with the ring on the face of the water, saying, By the virtue of the names engraven upon this ring, let the soul of such an one come forth. Whereupon the coffer will arise to the surface, and he will break it open, and do the like with the chests and the caskets, till he come to a little box, when he will take out the sparrow and strangle it, and I shall die. Then said Sayf Al-Muluk, I am the king's son of whom he spake, and this is the ring of Solomon, David's son, on my finger. So rise, let us go down to the seashore, and see if his words be leal or leasing. Thereupon the two walked down to the seashore, and the princess stood on the beach, whilst the prince waded into the water to his waist, and laying his hand with the ring on the surface of the sea, said, By the virtue of the names and talismans engraven on this ring, and by the might of Suleiman bin Daud, on whom be peace, let the soul of Hatim the Jinni son of the Blue King come forth. Whereat the sea boiled in billows, and the coffer of alabaster rose to the surface. Sayf Al-Muluk took it, and shattered it against the rock, and broke open the chest and the caskets, till he came to the little box, and drew there out the sparrow. Then the twain returned to the castle, and sat down on the throne. But hardly had they done this, when lo and behold, there arose a dust cloud, terrifying, and a huge thing came flying and crying, Spare me, O king's son, and slay me not, but make me thy freedman, and I will bring thee to thy desire. Quoth Dalat Katan, The Jinni cometh. Slay the sparrow, let this accursed enter the palace, and take it from thee, and slaughter me, and slaughter thee after me. So the prince wrung the sparrow's neck, and it died. Whereupon the genie fell down at the palace door, and became a heap of black ashes. Then said Daulat Khaten, We are delivered from the hand of yonder accursed, and what shall we do now? And Sayf Al-Muluk replied, It behoveth us to ask aid of Allah Almighty, who hath afflicted us. Belike he will direct us and help us to escape from this our strait. So saying, he arose, and pulling up 60 of the floor of the palace, which were of sandalwood and lind aloes, with nails of gold and silver, bound them together with ropes of silk, and floss silk, and fine linen, and wrought them of a raft, which he and the princess aided each other to hale down to the seashore. They launched it upon the water till it floated, and making it fast to the beach, returned to the palace, whence they removed all the chargers of gold, and saucers of silver, and jewels, and precious stones and metals, and what else was light of load, and weighty of worth, and freighted the raft therewith. Then they embarked after fashioning 2 pieces of wood into the likeness of paddles, and casting off the rope moorings, let the raft drift out to the sea, and them committing themselves to Allah the Most High, who contendeth those that put their trust in him, and disappointeth not them who rely upon him. They ceased not faring on thus 4 months, until their victuals were exhausted, and their sufferings waxed severe, and their souls were straitened, and they prayed Allah to vouchsafe them deliverance from that danger. But all this time, when they lay down to sleep, Sayf Al-Muluk set Daulat Khaten behind him, and laid a naked brand at his back, so that when he turned in sleep the sword was between them. At last it chanced one night, when Sayf Al-Muluk was asleep, and Daulat Khaten awoke, that behold, the raft drifted landwards, and entered a port wherein were ships. And the princess saw the ships, and heard a man, he being the chief and head of the captains, talking with the sailors, whereby she knew that this was the port of some city, and that they were come to an inhabited country. So she joyed with exceeding joy, and waking the prince said to him, Ask the captain the name of the city and harbor. Thereupon Sayf Al-Muluk arose and said to the captain, O my brother, how is this harbor hight, and what be the names of yonder city and its king? Replied the captain, O false face, O frosty beard, and thou knew not the name of this port and city, how camest thou hither? Quoth Sayf Al-Muluk, I am a stranger, and had taken passage in a merchant ship which was wrecked, and sank with all my board. But I saved myself on a plank, and made my way hither. Wherefore I asked thee the name of the place, and an asking is no offence. Then said the captain, This is the city of Amira, and this harbor is called Common al-Bayran. When the princess heard this, she rejoiced and exceeded joy, and said, Praise be Allah. He asked, What is it? O Sayf Al-Muluk, rejoice and succor in near hand, for the king of the city is my uncle, my father's brother. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.